Hello everyone, Hachadino over here, and as you always know, you can like my video, subscribe in any of the cats that is on the site, and become a member if you're interested in supporting the channel. You can also check out the sheet that we have for Sublety. Of course, every single guide and thing will be on that sheet, well indexed, and also this video itself. Now let's go for this one. This is an explaining of mechanics of sub in the War Within. This will be a long video and I will be focusing on the single target mechanics. I will do another one for AoE and Mythic Plus. That one will come a little bit later because I do want to check some things with other people. There are some things that can be changed on that front, I think. Now, for single target, if you haven't played Sublety ever, I'm going to go around the basic things. So the first few minutes of this video can be boring to a lot of people if they have already played Sublety or played it in the last expansion in the season 3 or season 4. Basically, I'm going to begin playing everything from the little things to the big things. Let's go first of all. As Sublety, you have access to two hero talents, Death Stalker and Trickster, that I will explain later, and this makes some changes to your rotation. But first, let's talk about the things Sublety is known for. We are known for Shadow Dance, and we have a lot of talents that improve or modify this skill. Of course, Sublety, you have access for Shadow Dance in the case on your general talents. Do remember now that we have cut to the chase. It was something that was only assassination, but now it's also unsublety. And basically, this is your whole kit and the things that you expect will turn around. We have like four main pillars that we are using right now, and that our talents and tier sets and other things will modify. Shadow Dance is your main cooldown. It's not a super long cooldown because it has some cooldown reduction thanks to one of our talents, but it makes it so basically you can use stealth abilities inside of that cooldown. You know, the stealth abilities that we have are quite strong. In this case, Shadow Strike and Chip Shot, but as you might expect, Chip Shot is not that useful for doing damage as it is a stun. But Shadow Strike is very strong because it gives 2 combo points, 3 combo points if we talent in the class tree, that of course we will. From here, from Improved Ambush. As you know, Ambush is a skill that Assassination, Sublety, and Outlaw have, but in the case of Sublety, it gets converted into Shadow Strike. This Shadow Strike, of course, gives 3 combo points, and while we are in stealth, we get extra bonuses, and we also have bonuses for Shadow Dance. One of those is Dark Shadow, increasing our damage, and also Dance Macabre, increasing the damage for each unique skill that we use inside of Shadow Dance. Then you also have Shadow Blades. It's a very strong cooldown. It used to not be that strong because it only affected builders if you played in other expansions or in the last one in the first two seasons. This made it so our builders did 50% more damage, and they also generated one extra combo point. Now it makes it so all our skills do 20% more damage as Shadow, and also making our builders generate full combo points. In the case of having 5, they will generate 5. If you have a Secret Stratagem and Deeper Stratagem, these two talents make it so we have 7 combo points. You will get those 7 combo points. Of course, sub will not be sub right now if we didn't also have Flagellation, making it so our finishers increase our mastery by 2.5 per stack. The cap in the case is 30 stacks, and if you have some stacks and the target dies, you get 10 extra stacks. This of course does not make sense, so you get 40, But use, for example, if you have 10 and the target dies while it's still on the first part of flagellation, you will get those extra 10 stacks. Afterwards, we also have Symbols of Death. This is one of our skills that we also have, and you get instantly 40 energy, and then you increase the damage that you do. This seems like kind of a blunt cooldown, but well, it's part of our kit. Then we have Secret Technique, something that was kind of weak in Shadowlands. It was quite decent in Battle for Azeroth, so if you played in those expansions, you may have a different outlook on the talent itself. But in Dragonflight, it got huge buffs, and it was one of the main things that we use in single target and even in AoE situations to do big deals of damage. We try to always use this, of course, inside Shadow Dance, as it makes it so our damage is more bursty. Then you have the normal things like Rupture that you want to keep on your targets. Shuriken Storm, that is not that important in single target apart from one thing that you may want to do as Deathstalker and other things that you may want to do as Trickster. But Black Powder also enters there. Now, the main builder that we will be using outside of Dance will be Backstab. It makes it so you get one combo point, does some extra damage, and you are behind the target, and also applies Find Weakness. Find Weakness has a baseline effect where it makes it so our physical damage penetrates 30% of the enemy's armor. And then, of course, you have Shadowed Finishers, making it so your Black Powder and your Eviscerate does 30% damage as Shadow. This is kind of the base kit of Sublety and makes it so we want to stack our cooldowns. We'll also stack cooldowns like, for example, Cold Blood. And if we are talented into Thistletea or Echoing Reprimand, we also want to use those inside Dance, making it so we have a bursty profile. Sub has, let's say, reputation of being quite hard to master and a little bit hard to even perform at a base level, and that can be true as if you use the cooldowns wrongly or you sync them badly or don't sync them at all, your damage is going to be very affected. Blizzard does want to change some of these things likely in the future as they are going to kill Dust, but that's for another video. Now that we have the base things that we want to do in single target, now you know that Sub wants to stack cooldowns, it wants to use them inside Shadow Dance, and it wants to make it so a lot of the damage of our profile is inside those moments. This means that Sublety will do a lot of damage inside the cooldowns, and outside the cooldowns our damage will be lackluster. This means that in the bursters profile that we have, this is with like a decent gear in heroic or mythic season 1 gear, we will be doing upwards of 3 million DPS of burst, and the low one of like 100 and something to 200 or something K. As you might expect, this is a 90% damage reduction that we are taking when we are not using our cooldowns, but that is how the spec can work in this environment, making it so you do a lot of damage and then you do aerial damage. Of course, it's not to the par of the Shadowlands, let's say the Moonking situation that we had, but it's still one of the burstest profiles that Blizzard has left along with Arcane and Holy Decay, etc. etc. Now that you have the baseline things, I'm going to go into the things that we want to do in our general trees and in the spec trees. Sublety right now has, let's say, 2 builds for single target, and then the hero talents do not change these builds in any way or form. You have this one for single target that is called the Dust build, let's say, because you play along Invigorating Shadow Dust to get cooldowns more often. making it so you get 2 uses of symbols of death, and also 2 uses of cold blood in your main cooldowns. This also makes it possible. One thing that does change, not in the tree itself, but in the way we use our cooldowns, is Trickster has the possibility to use 3 dances in a row in our opener and every 1 minute and a half, and that Stalker does not. Of course, this does not mean that the Stalker is worse, because as I said before, there are some changes between the specs, and one of those is kind of that Stalker. It's, let's say, the single target build. Even if it's less bursty, the damage it gets from its other talents makes it so it does more damage in a period of time that is longer. Around, of course, 5 minutes, you will do a lot of burst like Twister and then do less damage because you even have to skip one dance, and then do a little bit of damage with the dance, and then you have your big damage again. At the Stalker, it's a little bit different because you will have 2 dances and you do still a respectable amount of burst. It's still a Sublety Rogue. It's still going to do a lot of damage while it has its cooldowns, just not to the place that Trickster can get to. Then you will have your dances in between your cooldown. You have 2 dances, 1 dance, and then after another time another dance, and then you will have your big cooldowns again. This in the end is like around 3% better than Trickster. Now that we know the things that we do in single target, we are going to talk more about the changes that you want to do in each one. First, I will begin with Trickster. In Trickster, basically, you are going to play around your escalating blades from Unseen Blade. These go up to 4 and make you do a coup de grace instead of an eviscerate. You will need to have the target faced, and this means that when you use the coup de grace, you will get 5 stacks of flawless 4. Of course, before I talk about Trickster things, there are some things that haven't changed. I will talk them about the afterwards about the hero talents, but I will go and do a fast overview. There is not a lot of things that I want to talk in this video itself, as I want to go in depth in other videos. I already did kind of an overview of them, but for Trickster, you want to use your Unseen Blades as soon as possible. You also want to consume your Coup de Grace inside of Dance. You also want to be using Secret Technique as when you get it, to get these 2 extra Unseen Blades. There are some talents that make applying phased easier. For example, this one can make you reset. This is really annoying because we actually don't know when it resets, so you just get it for free. And then Nimble Flurry, this is more of an AoE clip thing that I will talk in another time. Changes about rotation for Trickster. You will use usually Secret Technique as the first finisher in cooldowns and in dance. The only situation where you don't use Secret Technique is when you have Coup de Grace ready and don't have the phased debuff applied on the target. The phased debuff comes from using Secret Technique or from using Backstab or Shadow Strike and proccing an Unseen Blade. That is one of the changes that Trickster does have. Another change that this is not for single target but for AoE is that you do not use Black Powder when you have Flawless Form active because of Nimble Flurry. Other talents don't impact the rotation at all, and that is the only thing that you kind of need to know about Trickster. Now, for the rotation things that you need to know about Trickster is on opener. Ideally, you do the triple dance opener. I have a clip. I also did an overview video about this, and also an explanation, kind of. Then, after a triple dance, you will skip 1 dance, or you can skip the next one. But basically, between the triple dance and then you have 2 dances in between, you can skip one of those. And then you have another triple dance. With Deathstalker, now let's go into this one. Deathstalker does more damage, as I explained before, and it doesn't have a lot of caveats or things to keep track about. Almost everything is passive. That's why it may be the preferred thing about that. The only sad thing is that the cleave and AoE damage is quite lackluster compared to Trickster, but we are not into that in this video. You will have your Deathstalker's mark, where you get 3 stacks, and when you consume them, you proc your capstone called Darkest Night. The important rotation change about this is when Darkest Night is available, you want to get full combo points before using Eviscerate to proc this. If you get only to 5 or 6, it will not work and you are misplaying. Hunt them down and Corrupt the Blood are passive things that we don't care that much about them. And then clear the witnesses. You just spend this buff when you are not in dance and when you don't have symbols of death up. This means that you can do this after all of your cooldowns. It's the ideal situation. On the opener, if you are playing Dust, you are not going to use this on the opener, but if you are playing Dark Brew, you are going to use this in your opener. I have a video about this. You can check that one out. It's going to be, of course, in the sheet and everything else. Dark Brew is not hugely behind the Shadow Dust, but it's still behind. That's why I'm not going to talk a lot about this. The only different rotation thing about Dark Brew is you have access to Finality, and you want to have a Finality Rupture when you are going into dance. This changes from the past expansion when almost all the builds had this talent. Now you are not talenting it, so it's not a thing to keep in track. You will, of course, if you are playing Dark Brew, want to have this Finality Rupture when you are going into dance, not in the opener, but on the other dances that you are going to do, you want to put those. And then for Deathstalker, the dance cadence is for Shadow Dust, we are going to be using 2 dances, 1 dance, 1 dance, 2 dances. Each of these dances will have symbols of death, secret technique used on them. Some of them will have cold blood, others will not. If you use them correctly, it will sync every 1.5 minutes. You will have cold blood ready for the strong cooldown dances. Now, for Shadow Blades and Flagellation, you will use those every 1.5 minutes, and you will hold Flagellation for 30 seconds when it is available. Same thing is Trickster, that will not change. Every 1.5 minutes you will use those cooldowns if you are invigorating Shadow Dust. For Dark Brew, you will use Shadow Blades and Flagellation every 2 minutes. In this case, the dance cadence will be 2 dances, no dance, 1 dance, 1 dance, 2 dances. The one that is no dance, you can choose one of the 3. Same thing with Trickster, you can choose which of those ones to skip, but it's important that you skip one, otherwise your cooldown reduction will not be enough. The better one to skip usually is the first one, because that way, even if there is a little bit of downtime, with normal time going through, you get the dance available for the third place, where you would use Shadow Dance, and that will be everything that you need to keep care of. Now, of course, this doesn't seem as hard as some people paint it, and it's because actually sub is not hard. You can just mess up things and there is no recovery. Other specs have like some way to recover, but if you, for example, forget to use Flagellation or something like that, you will need to wait 2 whole minutes to be able to sync it with Shadow Blades, because if you use Flagellation afterwards, then it's not going to sync with Shadow Blades, and then it's not going to sync with Cold Blood, and then maybe it's not syncing also with symbols of death, so it becomes like an oil explosion or something like that. So there is one thing: sub is not super hard, but punishes mistakes really, really harshly. Also, mechanics. Do remember that you can hold cooldowns, but you have to hold them all at the same time. What does that mean? Also, you have to know what you can hold and what you can't. That is, let's say, a skill issue that happens in raid combat, and it's not easy to make a guide about it. Best thing I can do is I'm going to make videos for each boss and try to explain when you can hold and when you can't, or if you get this mechanic, what you can do. But in a general video like this, I can't fully explain what can happen as sub. Just remember, please, if you have to not use a cooldown, try to not use everything. Also, if you know if there's a mechanic coming where you can be chosen, don't use things, don't mechanic, come back, use things. That will be less DPS loss than using it and getting it in between, and then you lose a lot more. I think this is a good overview of all the things that you need to do. TLDW will be use backstab outside dance, keep slice and dice up, keep rupture up. If you use cooldowns, use all of them together. If you're shadow dust, vanish when you have to. Look at the other guides for each build. I will keep doing them. And I hope this is a good overview. It's going to be long. I hope people enjoy it. If you didn't, I can't do much. If you have anything to improve or anything like that, you can tell me in the comments. I will keep people, of course, informed about everything that I found, and I will see you on the next video.